What's good? What's good, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Urban Platform Speaks. Make sure to like and subscribe as you tune in and you check out the content. And with that being said, man, I just want to talk about LeBron James and like because LeBron James's career is winding down, um, and he still, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion, he still don't get the love and the admiration of somebody like Michael Jordan, right? And so when LeBron James from the very beginning, LeBron James was fighting an uphill battle. When it came as far as trying to compete with Mike and chasing, that ghost. Everybody calls it, chasing the ghost of Michael Jordan. And so I remember hearing the lyrics from 50 Cent song when he said, "I want them to love me the way they love Pac," right? And so I seen at that celebration when they had the top 50 greatest basketball players of all time. LeBron James was there, and all the greats was there. Magic Johnson, Dr. J, Larry Brown. Just all the great basketball players. The top 75, I think it was. And you know, I you could see like a little glimpse of how LeBron James was like looking at Michael Jordan when Michael Jordan, like when he stepped in the room, like it just seemed like all the attention and everything was just focused on him, like he's a basketball god, basically, right? And LeBron James, I gotta imagine him seeing Michael Jordan like that. He probably was thinking to himself, "Wow, I want them to love me the way they love Mike." Right? But from the very beginning, like I said, LeBron James was fighting an uphill battle. Kobe tried to eclipse that, but Kobe couldn't. And Kobe came close. Kobe did everything right, on the court. But he just it was, to go up against Mike and the image that Mike had coming behind Mike, it just was Kobe couldn't even do it. I think if you didn't have Mike in the league and then you had Kobe would be considered, in my opinion, like the greatest basketball player of all time. If it wasn't for Mike, just say, whatever happened, with all that stuff that was associated with Mike, you just take that out the picture. I think Kobe probably would be considered like the GOAT. But Mike just set the standard so high and benefited from so many different things that Kobe didn't stand a chance. And I don't think that LeBron James stood a chance, right? And so now, one advantage that I think LeBron James had was that that Mike had is that Mike played in an era where there wasn't as much that social media, like that 24/7 social media era, whereas everything you say, everything you do is just content, right? And it's put out there. So Mike didn't have to deal with that, right? And what LeBron James did, he had to deal with it. Now, considering that LeBron James, in my opinion, I thought LeBron James did a really good job of dealing with the social media era. He's polarizing in some aspects, but overall, like he don't have a lot of scandals or anything like that. He don't have any scandals. You know what I mean? Married man, 3 kids. So LeBron James did a good job of handling the era that he played in, right? So how else was he competing with Mike though? The myth making, right? Jordan's career arc was cinematic, perfect finals record, iconic moments, global marketing dominance, right? And just think about that when you think about Nike, Gatorade, and like Mike was promoted all over the world, and at an era with Nike and like I said, all those different sponsors, like those companies were growing and Mike was growing at the same time. So it was like the perfect storm, right? And I think that really can't be recreated. And so that's another disadvantage that I think that LeBron James was operating at. Like you couldn't go, like as a LeBron couldn't take Nike or take any sponsors that Mike had. Like he couldn't take any of them to a higher level than what Mike took them, right? So LeBron James was competing with that. Then when you think about the cultural cleanliness of Michael Jordan, like Michael Jordan avoided public stances and controversies, right? Where LeBron James is more outspoken and constantly more polarizing, right? So now Mike Jordan did have an instance one time where he said something about Republicans by Nikes too, but then Michael Jordan went and he cleaned up his image, So but for the most part, Mike stayed away from being polarizing, and he mainly took a neutral stance. Whereas LeBron James, and this is, I think, was the biggest downfall of LeBron James and the people that represent LeBron James, allowing him to be more polarizing, especially now. Don't get me wrong. I think it's good to take public stances and stand for different things, right? But it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Like, you want to be able to still capitalize on your fan base and your market even after your career, right? Now, Michael Jordan, because he couldn't speak publicly on certain things, he did things behind the scene. He donated money, and had different things built. He did stuff behind the scene where publicly he may have been seen to have been aloof or even taken a neutral stance, but behind the scenes he knew he could do things that he couldn't do publicly, right? And I think that the people who represented LeBron James could have helped LeBron James do some things like this too. Like, it don't all your political you can't have your political stances be public all the time, right? Or be public at all. Basically, if you're LeBron James and you want to compete with Michael Jordan, that puts you at a disadvantage because Michael Jordan is not a polarizing figure, at least, especially when it comes to political issues or public issues and stuff like that. He's not somebody who's polarizing. He's seen as somebody who is neutral. Like, publicly, you don't know how Michael Jordan feel about anything because he don't attach himself or his name to any of that stuff, right? But like I said, there's things that people say that Michael Jordan do behind the scenes that I think that he was able to do, right? And sometimes that gives you more power and more pull to do things behind the scene because you have less people working against you when you do stuff like that. Like, if they don't know what's going on, they don't know what to defend against, then it's easy. You get less resistance, right? Another thing that I think that hurt LeBron James is moving from team to team, right? So it says, let me see what I got down in my notes. Jordan stayed on one franchise during his prime, where LeBron James moved from Cleveland to Miami to LA. And so it created narratives of disloyalty. And some people like to say, well, he's the first player to leave to lead different franchises to a championship. And that's true. But as a fan base, if LeBron James did something for the fan base in Cleveland, then he did something for the fan base in LA, then he did something for the fan base in Miami, you don't feel special. You know what I mean? Like, that, neither one of these fan bases feel special, right? And so there is a hint of disloyalty, right? Because LeBron James won championships at all these different stops, but he left, right? Whereas though, if you are a Jordan fan, and you seen Michael stay with Chicago, for his entire career, except for at the end when he was at after his Chicago days off, he was at Miami. I mean, he was at Washington. People don't even really factor that in. They just see Mike as being loyal to Chicago for his entire career. Whereas though LeBron James, like, his loyalty is more so fractured. And I think that worked against LeBron James too, right? Um, what about in generational ownership? Jordan defined the childhood identity of an entire generation. LeBron entered where Jordan was already the standard, right? And so LeBron James had to live up to that standard. And which I think, again, this is where I think, like, LeBron James representatives failed him, right? You already know, like, what the standard, if you're representing LeBron James, you already know what the standard is. You already know, like what do you have to do in order to reach that standard. And so they should have had a better plan in place, you know, um, giving LeBron James better direction and telling him, advising him, like, look, All you have to do is play hard, stay out of trouble, and just focus on basketball. Then the rest will come. I think moving from team to team, he should have gotten better advice than what he got from the people that was advising him. Once he moved to Miami from Cleveland, I just thought that it just kind of changed the way people looked at him. Now, once you change the way people look at you as a star, then he should have taken that time, and his team should have taken that time to rebuild his image. Like Miami, all right, you made a mistake, or people frowned. And I wouldn't say it was a mistake, but I say people frowned on the fact that you went to Miami. Other superstars have changed, but not so much change. You go from Cleveland to Miami, from Miami back to Cleveland, from Cleveland to LA. But had LeBron James stayed in Miami, after that first, people criticized that, but he could have rebuilt his image from there. Don't go back to Cleveland. Don't go to LA. Stay in Miami, win as much as you can there, and then, built there. But it's he just continuously started over far as rebuilding his fan base, rebuilding his, he just started all over. It's just too much. And so there was no way that, LeBron James would be able to get the love and admiration that Mike did, because he just had too much working against him. Even in a perfect scenario, he had a lot working against him, and then some of the mistakes he made just took him, in my opinion, out of the running for that GOAT argument, or out of the running for him to get the love and the admiration that Mike did. It was just too much. So that's my take on it. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Also, don't forget to leave a comment. And with that being said, man, I'm gonna check y'all out in the next video. Peace.